Yo guys, Coach Theo here, Uncommon Sense. Today we'll be talking about how muscle actually is built. And by that I don't mean that we're gonna go into the science of what actually happens in the body when the muscle grows into a larger muscle, because honestly we don't even know all that much about how that works. But we know very well what leads to muscle growth, like what actions a person needs to take and what factors need to be in place in order for us to see the outcome of muscle growth. That's a beautiful thing in this life, guys. We rarely need to know everything or even close to everything about like how something works in order to make it work, right? But of course, the information society of today, with the blessing and the curse of the internet, when on the one hand there's a lot of free information available that can be very useful to you, but on the other hand there's so much information available that you can consume and get so many ideas in your head that you've never tried that you just get overwhelmed. You're just even more lost now. It's like, I don't know, I don't understand how this works yet. Clearly, I'm not ready to start yet. Gotta watch more videos, and then when I know everything, that's when I'll go to the gym. No. That you just have to know enough of how it works, and that's what we're gonna talk about in this video. Just what do we need to know? How does it work? What do I have to do? And you're gonna see that you can apply this then. This is like whether you have a great gym or at home. You just have to understand what is it you're gonna try to make happen, right? So we're gonna get into it, but I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about why do I put out so much free information? Am I not a coach? Am I not trying to make a living from this? Well, first of all, yes, I am. And it's both that I need to be able to make my living, but I also know that it's always when you work directly with someone that you can give them the most. However, first of all, this didn't start this way. Uncommon Sense, I started this just because I was so genuinely happy about the change I made in my life that I never thought was possible, that I just wanted to spread it to as many people as possible. Both the physical stuff, fitness, training, diet, fasting, right? But also all the deeper psychological mindset, spiritual stuff, right? And so I still want to do that. I still want to reach as many people as possible. And a lot of people, they won't just get stuck in some paralysis by analysis. They will be able to do a lot with free information. However, it's still a great way for me to just showcase what I'm about, my philosophy, my ideas, my approach. So both of all, like they are good. I mean that this is a good, commercial is the wrong word, but you know, it's good for my image. I'm showing what I've got, right? But also, it always helps when I work directly with clients. If they have watched a lot of my videos before, I know they know a bunch of my ideas and concepts, and we don't have to waste time on that. And then we get into the more personal stuff when we're working directly, right? So guys, I will always want to put out as much free stuff as possible. Like I said, to reach as many as possible. It will be useful whether you're going to be working directly with me or not. But I also want to say I'm taking the opportunity now, because as you know, the channel has blown up a bit lately and it's a lot of fun, but I still feel like I have the time for this. And I just know I'm seeing people reaching out to me and ideas about what to do in the future. I'll always put out videos, but it won't always be on the table that I can put out these long presentations going over everything completely. So I'm just taking the opportunity now, guys. So you take the opportunity now to watch closely. And it's the same thing with you guys commenting in that. I will always want to interact a lot with my audience and following. But you know, when you have 50 to 100 comments on a video, maybe you can do that. When you get to a point when you have thousands, maybe you can't. So I'm just saying, guys, I'm taking the opportunity here to give you as much as I can while I can to all of you, right? You should take the opportunity to follow the channel closely and interact with me, and yeah, let's do this shit together. All right. Yes. Okay. Let's talk about how muscle is built. So I put at the very top adaptation to stimulus. Maybe it should be obvious, right? But still, I think it's kind of overlooked sometimes. When people just want to, they see everyone that looks decent, it's steroids, you can't look like that without steroids, or your genetics, well, clearly you have great genetics. It's like as if people forget that, look, it's not one person's genetics or steroids that build muscle, that's a function that's in you, all right? It's just that steroids, they enhance that. That's why it's called performance enhancing drugs. Not drugs that you absolutely need, that you can't perform without them drugs, right? That's not how it works. Same thing with genetics. Someone, it might be that they have like better genetics. It's easier. They get a slightly bigger response from all these things we're gonna go through. But it's still these things. It's the human body that builds the muscle, right? That it's in all of us. So it's like, forget all about those things that might lead to like bigger outcomes, and many times they did not. So people think you're on steroids and you must have amazing genetics when it's not the case, right? But like, let's get back to the fact that the body is a master of adaptation. It adapts when it's put under pressure. It's incredible how the body can adapt. So we just have to understand that what we are doing when we're building muscle is like, I'm challenging my body and I'm stimulating enough so that the body is like, man, we're not doing well enough on this. I have to adapt. In this case, when we're lifting weights or moving weight, putting our muscles under tension, the adaptation is to build muscle, right? And so we're going to talk about progressive overload in a bit, but that's of course what you have to understand, that in order to keep stimulating an adaptation, you're going to have to progress, right? Continuously taking the muscle, the body, but the muscle we're trying to grow to a place where it's not been before, so that the body is like, man, we have to change something, we have to adapt, we have to make that muscle bigger, okay? I put beneath that multi-joint movements. It's not that we have to do that. What is a multi-joint movement? Of course, like, okay, a single joint movement would be something like a curl, right? It's just in my elbow here. There's a movement. Well, when I do a chin-up, my elbow is still flexing, but now also it's a movement in my shoulder joint. My upper arm is moving closer to me, right? And so we can, isolations, especially for taking your physique to the like fullest level and fine-tuning the details and maxing out the weak points and stuff. Isolations are going to be necessary for that, but why I put multi-joint movement here is just that it just seems to be the case that these are the most important ones. Like if you take my physique now, if I try to start over and train every muscle with just isolation exercises, like I'm not doing a squat when I train my glutes and I just do leg extension, I just do some kind of glute isolation, etc. I just don't think I'll be able to get it to the same level, right? So our bread and butter, the like foundation, the movements that are gonna build the most muscle, those are going to be multi-joint movements. So think compound exercises like a bench press, a shoulder press, a chin-up pull-up, rows, squats, hip hinges, a Romanian deadlift, right? These things are gonna be the biggest things, but I'm here because I want you to understand this. You don't have to have perfect equipment and that. I just want to install this kind of thinking so that, let's say you're someone that has to train at home. And it's like, this is what I want to do with a video like this. I want you to make you like me, because I know these things. So if I'm presented with a situation, whether that is you're abroad and this is the crappy gym you have access to, or you have an amazing gym, everything is there, or you're at home, you have a few pieces of equipment. I'm always using these things, like how do I get to as close to what I'd like to do ideally as possible. So now we're at home, right? Well, multi-joint movements. Some things, like the legs, it's going to be challenging to get, okay, let's actually save that for here. Okay, we're going to get back to that. But so training to failure, all right? It's just that you don't necessarily have to take everything to failure. Failure is like when you fail if I do push-up and I can't get up, I failed, right? But it's a good kind of failure, but we have to be close enough to failure to stimulate that adaptation. It's just what's going to happen. If you can do 20 push-ups and you do 10, the body's just like, well, that went fine. Don't have to do anything. So we have to train at a high enough intensity, and then, as we're going to get to, progressively overload. I guess we get to that now because there's not so much more to say. Like, you should basically push most sets you do to failure or very close, right? As long as you can see that there's a progression, that you can progress. You're training close enough to failure, right? But yeah, progressive overload is the next thing. It's like we pretty much talked about it already in the other points. Just gotta understand, guys, that I hammer down on this. I get sick of myself how often I say progression, progression, progression. Like, because if people just understood that whatever it is that I'm doing, if I can see that a progression is taking place and it keeps doing that, it's inevitable that I get results, right? So that's like as long as you can see that you are making progress, maybe there are things you can do better and stuff, but it's like you're always doing good enough. It's impossible to keep progressively overloading your training and not building muscle, right? That's why it's so important. Like, don't just go into a workout checking off boxes of I did 3 sets, 10 reps there, and blah, 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 blah. No, you go in like, I did this last time, I gotta beat it. I gotta beat it. And the next time, I gotta beat that. Keep going like that, right? Here, 5 to 30 reps per set. And now is when we're gonna get back a bit to this. So this, like, I do a video like this because sometimes when you guys tell me things you're doing, I'm kind of like, okay, well, I guess you're not into building muscle then, because that might be a decent thing you're doing, but not for the purpose of building muscle. Like, I hear you guys, oh, I try to get 100 push-ups in a day. It's like, if that's just a little exercise and like, you know, mindset thing, I do push-ups to get a little, you know, activate myself a little bit as a mindset thing, you know, but for building muscle, that's just a useless approach. Look, the body can do many, like we have endurance, we have strength, explosivity, right? And some things are just, you're going to be using your muscles, but not in a way that stimulates the adaptation of growing them bigger. Like running, you know, yeah, okay, someone that's been sitting around and not doing anything, if they start running, maybe a little bit of muscle they'll build at first, but then if they want bigger legs, running is just not what they should be doing, right? So this is generally the rep range. When we're training to failure or close enough to failure, we want to do 5 to 30 reps per set. 30 is a little bit on the higher end. Like, I personally rarely go above 25, 20 maybe, you know, but within this range, all right? If we're lower, we're more training our nervous system and strength, like our ability to recruit the muscle we already have. Above 30, we're starting to do some kind of muscle endurance. In this range, as long as it's to failure and we're progressively overloading, we should be able to build muscle here. And so now let's get back to this too. This is what can become a problem when you're training at home or with just limited weights, right? At push-ups, for instance, any guy that's like around my age, even if you could do like 10 push-ups now, if you keep training consistently, it's not going to be too long before you can do more than 30. And look, it's great. That's a great thing. When I train like my old client, Sven, like a friend here, I train. You know, we can use push-ups as a compound exercise because he currently has like 5 to 8 reps. So it's like a bench press for him, pretty much. It's just that it's a body weight exercise instead, but it's the same kind of multi-joint movement, right? So the push-up can be a great muscle building exercise. However, when you can do more than 30 reps, now we're not really building muscle anymore. So what do we do then? Well, this is just an example, like because something as a pull-up, for instance, that's a beautiful thing. It's a great home exercise because for like who is going to get above 30 pull-ups? You're insanely good at pull-ups if you can do that. The point is you're going to be able, even if adding weight at some point would be good too, you're going to be able with just body weight to build good back. But with the push-ups, like, okay, what do we do? Well, okay, we're going to talk about the bonus here at the end, that emphasizing the stretched position in an exercise, there's just something you should pick up on it. That's the most important part of the motion. Not just stretching, but lingering, emphasizing that stretched portion of an exercise is good for hypertrophy and mobility. It's one of those hacks that you're like, wow, it's actually, wow, it's good for both things at the same time. But so, if we have a push-up, look at it. It is a great exercise. It's a multi-joint movement. But, okay, we see here that I could be getting deeper if my chest wasn't in the way or like the floor wasn't in the way, right? So, one way to make it more challenging is to somehow elevate my hands. And there are, of course, parallettes. There are like handles actually made for this. But you don't have to. Like, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. That just occurred to me. If I have this chair, of course, if I were to use that, wouldn't be ideal. But if I could elevate my feet now suddenly, I don't know how well you see me, but I think you still see the point that suddenly, because I elevated my hands, the range of motion is much longer. So every rep is going to be heavier. And I'm now emphasizing the stretched position. You see, if you could do, let's say you could do 30 push-ups on the floor, if you're going to do complete elevation, you're going to cut that in half or something, right? So you see, you have to, if you're going to train at home using body weight exercise and that's going to be okay. But you've got to make sure when you can do more than 30 in that, it's like now you're not training with strength anymore. Have to come up with some way to make it more challenging so that you can train to failure within this range again. Another way is, of course, if you can get some weight on your back, if you have a backpack or something, in the end you can even combine these. You're elevating your hands and you have weight, right? That's a form of progressive overload too. You see, the point is that you gotta make sure that when you train to failure, very close to failure, this is where you end up, okay? Then we just have enough volume, and I'm not gonna talk too much about exactly here. Like what I will generally say is like optimal for a muscle, it would typically be 10 to 20 sets per week. But you know, there are studies with these insanely high volumes, so oh, that's even better, you know. But who's gonna go and do 54 sets for their quads every week, you know? And you don't have to build muscle is the point. But just got to realize that this is a factor. Like if we're not seeing the outcome of muscle growth, if we're not managing to make progress, there are some things we can audit. Like, okay, I'm training to failure, but I just do 1 set per exercise and I just train once per week. Well, maybe I need to do more sets. Can you progressively overload now? Great, you're doing enough volume to see progress, right? Same with the frequency. It's like, you know, probably most people can have once per week. Probably is enough to grow muscle, but it's very well established in the science that hitting the muscle twice per week is going to be better. Some muscles are going to be able to, you're going to be able to hit more often, but you see the point that there is a little span here, probably once or twice per week, every muscle. Some weak points, maybe even more often. Enough volume. So it's like, I'm just saying that these are things you can look at if you're not seeing progress. Or you're not seeing the outcome of muscle growth, you're not able to progress. Maybe you have to up the frequency or volume, right? Okay, then we have protein and energy. So what we gotta understand is protein are the building blocks. We do not store protein. Like the only way we store protein is like in actually like finished tissue, like skin, muscle, bones, you know. We don't have like fat that just sits here or glycogen that we store in our muscles and in our liver. That's why we have to eat protein after training. We don't have any stores to tap into. So the general goal for protein is 2 grams per kilo of ideal body weight. You don't need a bunch of more protein because you're fatter. It could be a good strategy to lose weight, but since we're talking about how to build muscle, it's just that you don't need more than that, okay? Probably you're gonna be okay with like 1 gram per kilo of ideal body weight, but it's like a low-hanging fruit, right? The point is just that you have to get a protein. What I want people to understand about protein is that it is important, but it's not, it's like, it's just important to not completely mess it up. And yeah, you might be able to, if you're eating a little lower on protein, it might be better to eat more. Point is, it's difficult to completely mess up. We just have to understand that protein needs to be part of the equation, right? Then I put energy, and look, it's because you don't necessarily have to be in a calorie surplus. You don't have to be taking in more energy by eating than you exert from movement and bodily functions. You need, your body has to feel that it is in a state of abundance of energy. And since we store energy in the form of body fat, we can make up missing, depending on who we are. If we have more body fat and we're more of a beginner with muscle, it's going to be easier to make up missing calories from body fat. But the point is that protein is the building blocks, but we need enough energy. And so, skinny fat person or a very overweight person, maybe they can even be below their maintenance as long as they get enough protein and build muscle. However, a skinnier individual or a more advanced individual might actually have to eat more. The energy just to use to do this, to be able to use the building blocks. But you see what I mean? You need, apart from the protein, it's just that you need energy. How much from food and how much you can take from yourself, that depends on who you are, right? And then sleep, all right? Like you have to understand that's the stimulus to adaptation. That's what we do in the gym. It's like we plant a seed, And then protein synthesis is elevated for 48 hours, meaning that we want to get in our protein for the next 48 hours to maximize the growth we can get, how big the seed can grow into. But apart from eating the protein and getting enough energy, sleeping, that's when we actually do this, right? So good sleep, around 8 hours for most people would be best. Falling asleep couple of hours before midnight is going to be best sleep quality, right? And then bonus, we already talked about it, but it's something that's worth to point out here. It's not that the exercise must have a huge stretch in it in order for it to be effective for muscle growth, but it's something natural bodybuilders, the best ones, has known for a long time, that emphasizing the stretch. There is such a thing as stretch-mediated hypertrophy. And now the science is catching up too. There's all this science on even training with length and partials, which I think is kind of silly. But the point is that we like exercises with a good stretch. And that's why, you know, the elevated push-ups, like it would be better to not lock them out completely. Like why not do full range of motion, you know? But if you're going to do half reps, or not complete rep, it would be better to always get the full stretch at the bottom and not completely lock out than the opposite, to not even go all the way down, right? But so it's just good to have in mind with your exercise selection or the form for the exercise you choose to use, that the bigger of a stretch I can get in the exercise, the better. And the last thing I put is that the main thing you need is a body, all right? Well, it always starts with you. That's the thing, to the people are looking, oh, but I don't have a gym, oh, I don't have this and that. Well, you have a body, you have muscles. That's the main thing you need. And that's what I kind of, like what I want, again, I guess I said it at some point, guys. But it's so nice when you just understand how stuff works, like on the fundamental level, like what needs to happen here. And then when you know that, it's like, okay, what is my circumstance now? How do I make this happen with what I have here, right? Like I told you, you could throw me into any situation, and yeah, if I was like in a completely empty room, there are some muscles that would be quite hard to hit, but I would make up what would be the best thing to do if I was stuck in this room for whatever reason, and have this as my starting point for like, okay, how do I make my training happen in here? Okay, guys, so I've been thinking about, I've been getting suggestions like fitness for dads, basically dads that don't have so much time, and look, there could be a separate video on that, but this is, I think this is perfect. If a dad doesn't have all the time, if you can understand this, get yourself a little pull-up bar, you can elevate, do some elevated push-ups, have some weights, so you can do some single leg stuff, you know. Now you can do it at home. It doesn't take too much time, and that you didn't have to get too much stuff, but you're gonna be able to make some good gains with something like that. That's what I mean, guys. You can do a lot with a little when you know a lot about what to do with a little, right? So guys, please like and comment. Always interested to hear your thoughts, and it helps the algorithm, helps more people find their way here, so it's very much appreciated. I do, as I talked about, holistic bodybuilding coaching. If you want to take it to the next level or could use some support, there's my coaching programs, so you can send me a DM on Instagram or email me, it's in the description below. And I'll get back to you with my different programs. Getting jacked and stacked, mentally, physically, spiritually, working on yourself, body, mind and soul. That's what we do. You can also pick up the Uncommon Sense Bodybuilding ebook, where all my ideas of how to train muscle and sculpt a good physique are, and the mindset that goes into it. And if you just want to support me and the Uncommon Sense channel, you can become a member of the channel or a Patreon or leave a little super thanks comment. It's very much appreciated, guys. And please subscribe for more content about fitness, fasting, losing weight, building muscle, self-improvement, stoicism, mental health, philosophy, spirituality, mindset. It is a mindset, guys. Build that muscle. This is all. You don't need to do no more than this. Use this. What do you have available? Use this with that. Peace.